Welcome to Medical Myths, Legends, and Fairytales. I'm your host, Dr. Alan Christianson. Look, you know that between the latest online fads and the crazy media headlines, it's easier than ever to get confused about your health. And you and I just want to feel better and live longer. We want to know what works. And we can't wait for further studies. We need to make decisions today based on the best evidence we've got. Well, that's exactly what this show is here for. So let's get to it. Hey, Dr. C here with you. So today's going to be a really fun interview. This is going to be an in-person one with Dr. Forrest Sauer. He is a functional medicine physician, and it's a funny story, but I met him and became aware of him before realizing that we were family. So Dr. Sauer is going to talk about autoimmune disease. And I've talked a lot about autoimmune thyroid disease, but not so much about systemic autoimmune disease. So yeah, autoimmune disease is organ specific, like thyroid disease, or it's systemic. It works throughout the entire body. Dr. Sawyer's done a really good job helping to treat systemic autoimmune disease with natural approaches, and that's an awesome thing. As far as the family connection, so his wife is my cousin's daughter, so however that works out. But yeah, we met at a medical event many years ago. So please enjoy this discussion with Dr. Forrest Sauer. Dr. Sauer, how the heck are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
So, I mean, Forrest and Alan, that's easier, but...
Yes, please.
So this is really cool. This is unusual in several ways. So, your family.
As a super random thing. Yes, we are sure-tail relatives. So, yeah.
And yeah, we figured that out. I think you knew that maybe before I did. I'm not sure.
So I was talking with my father-in-law, and he mentions his cousin, Alan Christianson. And I was like, wait, like the Alan Christianson? The one that like I know about and has books and stuff? And like I showed him a picture. He's like, yeah, like that Alan. I was like, excuse me? So yeah, me and my wife, we've been married 13 years. And that was 13 years ago. Almost now, and I was like, okay, well that's really, really neat. How random. That's cool.
And we met at a medical conference and got to talk some, and met at another one rather recently. And
yes.
Yeah, and this is great. You worked with autoimmune disease, which is also a really cool thing.
It's just like so many pieces of the puzzle have come together. That's what it is.
And if that's not enough, you're not that far down the road from where I am.
No, I drove here, and like I was telling you before, just absolutely beautiful place. Love this. Love it.
I was concerned about your access. I didn't know what the roads were going to be like. They weren't good earlier this morning. And
I got 4-wheel drive. I'm going to make it.
That's cool. So let's get into the topic here a bit.
Yeah.
So you've worked with autoimmune disease a bit before. Give us a real high level on, what this stuff is and how it's different from other conditions. What really defines it?
Great question. And so like with autoimmune disease, the easiest way to understand it is the immune system is attacking the body. So your immune system typically protects yourself against bacteria, viruses, pathogens. But in autoimmune disease, the immune system gets ramped up enough and gets confused, and it'll actually start attacking different organs in the body, like thyroid disease, or it'll attack your gut or your nerves or even your brain sometimes. So it's really an umbrella term that talks about specifically your immune system attacking yourself.
And how would you contrast this with allergies? They're kind of sort of in the similar ballpark, right?
Yes, they are. And so like the immune system, most people think of the immune system when you talk about vitamin C and you'll have a strong immune system, or take some echinacea. And that is good up until the point, but there's different flavors, as you know others. IgE, which is a different antibody or immunoglobulin in the body, and it attacks and protects you against specific things. It also has IgA and IgM, and has all these different flavors of the immune system, if you will, protecting you against different things. And so anaphylactic or allergies is where you see the people get a bee sting and they puff up, or eat a peanut and they puff up. That's a specific flavor of the immune system. And with autoimmune disease, it's a different kind of immunoglobulin that is attacking your body.
That's cool. So yeah, with autoimmunity, we're attacking something that belongs inside. Allergies, we're attacking something that belongs on the outside. Yeah. Kind of a weird analogy, but I thought about it like you've got this guard, the security guard. And if the guard works well, he stops the bad guys from getting in.
Yep.
But
yep.
If the guard doesn't work well, the guard might shoot your dog. That would be autoimmunity.
That's a very accurate analogy. Yes.
Or if the guard shot the postman, that could be an allergy. So
yes.
Something that doesn't belong inside your house but might be around your house, and is generally not harmful.
Yeah, it's initially meant to be, like you said, protective and help you and keep you strong. But as we're seeing, autoimmune diseases is on the rise almost faster than anything else. And autoimmune disease is really triggered by a lot of environmental factors, as I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit. But it's the triggering that is the cause.
And I'll come back to that. I'll come back to different topics afterwards. But tell us about that. What are some of the big things we see that drives it? Why is it on the rise so much?
So there's 3 different kinds of stress. And if we're talking big picture, it is stress. There's physical stress, there's chemical stress, and there is emotional stress. So if I'm looking at a client, I want to, nose to toes, see exactly what's going on. So what is the physical stress? Do they have a daily back pain? Are their knees bothering them? Do they have some chronic inflammation where they're constantly in pain? That's a physical stress, and that's going to tax the body. You also have chemical stresses. So as far as chemical stresses, this is what we most commonly think about when we want to have a clean diet. You can look at the back of a box of food, and you look at the ingredients list. Yeah, you feel that shudder go down your spine. That there's all those toxins. They're getting into your body, and that is creating a havoc, a inflammation response in your body. And that's, again, just like the physical stress, taxing your body's energy sources. And so you're talking about that security guard that's supposed to keep your body healthy and safe. You're putting you're asking a lot of your security guard. Now the last one, and the one that I've found most people don't take seriously enough, and this is emotional stress. So with the emotional stress, this is with, you have a history of trauma, physical trauma, emotional trauma, or even sexual trauma. These are big stresses on the human body. If you have someone who's gone through a very stressful divorce, or they have a stressful job, or they have a death in the family, like these are all examples of emotional stress that will tax your body. Now your body has a threshold. And once you go over that threshold, your body's going to fall into dis-ease. Now you can think back on your life. Well, do you have any physical stress? Do you have any emotional stress or chemical stress? Do you live a standard American lifestyle, or maybe even better than most people that healthier diet than most people that you know? The fact of the matter is a lot of us have more than simply one of those stresses. And now you can start to understand how the body is going to get tired, it's going to get exhausted, and the security guard is going to start shooting your dog.
Wow. So, and the stress thing, you mentioned that being such a big point, especially the emotional stress. And I've seen data about the adverse childhood experience scores, the ACE scores, and being huge predictors of all kinds of things you'd never guess. Many cancers, heart disease. And then we see like the Holmes rate depression life survey index, to where the events you mentioned are ones that commonly precede big illnesses, big catastrophes. Mm-hmm. So give us a sense about what are some of the more common types, the diagnosis, the versions of autoimmune disease that you see most typically?
The most common ones, if they are diagnosed. Let's maybe start there.
That's a good point. Go back a step.
Let's back up. Yeah. If you are diagnosed with Crohn's disease or Hashimoto's, you have some serious autoimmunity going on. In the standard medical system, this is often one of the last places that is checked because it's not, quote, medically necessary, is the way that they phrase it. And so if you have diagnosed, like there's 3 different stages of autoimmunity. You got stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Stage 3 is when there's actual tissue damage that is being done. And that's when you get the diagnosis and the medications. But the more common autoimmune diseases that I see and we're really see on the rise is Hashimoto's. This one flies under the radar all the time. Irritable bowel syndrome, or what most people recognize as Crohn's or celiac disease. Irritable bowel syndrome is just simply a not as advanced stage of Crohn's or celiac disease. You have multiple sclerosis. You got early signs of dementia, like brain fog. That's your immune system creating tons of inflammation in your brain, and if it stays there long enough, your chances of getting diagnosed with Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, or dementia later on in life, they go up very exponentially. And so those are the more common ones that I see, like the Crohn's disease, celiac disease. Hashimoto's is a big one. Got the multiple sclerosis. But recognize, like, you could have Addison's disease, where the immune system attacks your adrenal glands. Once you have one autoimmune disease, you can have multiple, and your chances of having multiple go up exponentially.
That's the tough thing about the body not working right. There's just countless things that stay in balance, but when things go out of balance, then there's often predictable ways in which multiple things happen and people can have multiple diagnoses. Do you see certain populations, genders, ages, other factors that make people more disposed to seeing autoimmunity? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we typically do see, it's unfortunately, it's women who are anywhere from 30 to 65, 70 years old. And really the one of the more common themes that I see in that population is they've been taught to put everybody else before themselves. You're going to sacrifice yourself for your kids. You're going to put your spouse first, your job, the PTA meetings. You have all of these things that are pulling and tugging at your time. And what ends up happening is you put everybody else first and yourself last. And then by the time 10, 15, 35 years go by, you have hormonal imbalances. You have one or more autoimmune conditions. You're always exhausted. You feel burnt out. You feel very apathetic and really wishing that you had your youth back, had your quality of life back. So that's really almost the common thing. And I call it having a healthy amount of selfishness. Is when you have that healthy amount of selfishness, it means that when you have your health, you get to fully show up for your family. You now get to not just physically, but also emotionally and mentally show up for the people that matter most in your life. So that, talking big picture, that's also one of the reasons why I love optimal health, is because when I focus on me, that means I get to pour more into other people's lives.
That's really cool. And let's talk about that. So let's say someone is further along and they're lucky enough to get an explanation, they get a diagnosis. What are some of the mainstays of conventional therapy, some of the big drawbacks about them? What can they commonly face?
So perfect example is Hashimoto's. Okay, so if you have Hashimoto's, it's when the immune system is attacking your thyroid. Now, the conventional approach is you get a prescription. You get either levothyroxine or Synthroid. Well, as we just talked about, Hashimoto's is not a thyroid problem. It feels like that, but it's not a thyroid problem. It's an immune system problem. So if you're taking a thyroid medication for what's actually an immune system problem, you're missing the point. And you're going to be masking your symptoms, never getting at that root underlying cause of the problem. And so if you're looking at the standard medical approach, first off, if the proper labs are actually tested for, which, you've been in this industry for decades, and you know very well the inadequacy of thyroid labs that are run, even to this day, and I see it every single day. And if you don't have the proper lab testing done, you're going to be playing the guessing game.
It's a great point. And there's so much data now looking at how people who are diagnosed and are treated, the tough thing is that it's so clear that thyroid disease can cause all these symptoms, but yet the treatments often don't reverse the symptoms. Yeah. And the treatments don't reverse the medical outcomes, the cardiovascular disease, the bone loss, the other problems. And we see the same thing as well when it comes down to a matter of the autoimmunity. When you look independently at thyroid antibodies, even when they're there, no matter how well regulated other thyroid markers are, people can still have risks and still be symptomatic. So this is totally critical. And
you know as well as I do that, if you're just simply masking symptoms, if you mask it, are these and you don't change anything else, are these problems going to get better or are they going to get worse?
Right.
They're going to get worse over time. And so you can choose to kick the can down the road, but it's much better in not just for yourself, but also the people that are close to you, if you start addressing this earlier rather than later. I always like working with people where it's very early stages. Just, work with them, turn it around. This is where we can reduce the symptoms very easily. But if you have someone who's gone 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, and they haven't made any changes, you can reverse those symptoms, absolutely. But there's work involved.
Well, let's talk about that. So if conventional care is more so a matter of medications to replace the lacking hormone, or biologic medications or systemic glucocorticoids. So what are the main things? What kind of work are we talking about? So what are the things that you found helpful with generalized autoimmunity?
The most effective thing that I have found working with clients is addressing their lifestyle. So stop angering the immune system. Let's stop the trigger. This is getting at the root underlying cause of the problem. Yes, we use vitamins and minerals in my clinic. It hits the fast forward button. It allows things to happen so much faster. But if you simply take vitamins or supplements and you don't make any changes to your lifestyle, you're going to end up back on that vicious cycle. And so if we're going to break free from that and truly start losing weight and keeping it off, getting your hormones back in balance, stop having these hot flashes and mood swings, and you start having some patience for people in your life, then going through an elimination phase diet, figure out what is triggering the body. And I see people do elimination phase diets wrong all the time, unfortunately.
How so? What are some of the most common pitfalls?
Great question. Most common things that I see people do is they'll try going gluten-free for 2 weeks and expect magic and rainbows. And the reality is that you could be sensitive to gluten, but you could also be sensitive to corn or soy. And what are most gluten-free foods filled with? Well, they're filled with corn, they're filled with soy, and bad oils. And if we're going to do this with a whole food approach, if you've been sick and been lacking in your health for 20 years, you're not going to fix it in a month. Like, that's just the body. You're going to have huge changes that you didn't think that you could have, but it's not going to be completely better. It's going to take some time. And so, going through a whole food approach, avoid and adopting or going through an elimination phase diet. So knock out the most commons. Like I said, corn, soy, gluten, eggs, dairy. These are some of the most commons that we do work with clients. Ask them to, take away for a short period of time. We're going to reintroduce them so that way we know exactly what you're sensitive to, but we need to make certain we're doing it the right way.
That's cool. And with that, when you're especially addressing earlier stages, what have you come to expect as far as prognosis? What can you give someone for some realistic expectations for, like, degrees of improvements or time frames, or what the journey is like along the way? What would someone expect?
Great question. If I don't see results within the first 30 days, I know I've missed something. Because we do very comprehensive labs with every single one of our clients before we even get started. We do a very comprehensive intake, labs, and then we have that complete picture. So it's very, very rare that we miss something because of the intake process. And by the time, here's the truth. I work with people where they've done the weight loss programs. They've tried doing things on their own. They've hit the speed bumps along the way and maybe smashed their face into a brick wall a time or two. And so I don't want my clinic and this experience to be the same. So we do very comprehensive, and everybody's different. So that's why we always customize our recommendations for our clients. And I don't want them being reliant on me or my clinic for the rest of their life. I want them to have the health. I want them to have the independence. And so that's why we educate and teach people, what does their specific lifestyle look like? What are their triggers that are robbing and stealing their health from them?
And getting a sense of how it plays out, how it really looks like when someone's recovering. Any recent cases you could think about sharing with us about, someone that maybe was really memorable, or you saw a positive change and, a fulfilling difference that you saw happen? Or
Absolutely. I love positive client stories, and it's just the best. In my clinic, we have people who need additional help, and we also have people who have the client wins. And I got two stories. Okay, first one is actually a relative. So we're talking about relatives. This is another relative of mine, and she had been struggling with thyroid symptoms for 25 years. I grew up knowing her, and for as long as I'd known her, she struggled. And so she reached out to me. She knew what I did, and working with family can always be a thing. So I was very careful to make certain that we have like ambitions. She wanted to get better, and she's going to follow the path. Her thyroid antibodies were in the thousands. I mean, it was one of the highest that I had ever seen. It was absolutely crazy. Nobody had ever told her that she had Hashimoto's. It was the first it had ever been tested for. So after 25 years, she got answers.
Wow.
And she went through the process that I talked about. She went through the elimination phase. We brought her through a very specific, pointed detox, not something where you stick your foot in a bath or drink a tea. Like, this is a true, gentle detox. You're not going to be running to the bathroom. This is gentle. Heal the gut, decrease inflammation, heal the liver, get the foundations down, decrease the immune system. And we retested her thyroid antibodies 2 months later. They were down, what was it exactly? I look at so many labs. They went from 1,000 to 150. And it was absolutely life-changing for her because she has her health back for the first time in 25 years. She has energy. She's no longer taking naps in the afternoon. She doesn't feel exhausted as soon as the alarm clock goes off. I mean, yeah, she's lost her weight, but really the biggest thing is she's got her life back. Now, the other client that I'm thinking of is Karen, and she didn't have Hashimoto's, but she had tons of inflammation. I mean, when she stood up, you didn't have to see her stand up, you could hear it. She like that kind of thing. And so we went through, basically the same process. We asked her to start making lifestyle changes, pulling out inflammatory foods, drastically, asked her to reduce her sugar. She followed everything to a T. And just when you see someone who's is in pain and they've been in pain for decades, they have this look on their face. You know what look I'm talking about?
Totally.
Yeah, you know very well. So that is what she walked into our clinic with the first time. And I just reviewed her case the other day, and she's been working on this for 2 or 3 months. She's down 35 pounds. I don't hear her stand up anymore. And she is learning that self-discipline on taking a healthy amount of selfishness for herself. If there's any one thing that I can really impart upon a client, it is put yourself and your health first so that you can show up for other people.
So hope for autoimmunity. So who would be the ideal person to be a good candidate for work like yours, working directly with you? And what do you look for in a client? Who do you think you can make the best difference with? How do you go about deciding that?
Before I bring anybody on, we go through an interview process because I want to make certain, because we do ask people to change their life. I'm not a magic pill doc. If you're looking for a magic pill, more power to you. It's not going to be a good fit. And so we want to make certain that the way that we're living our life right now, it's not working. We're going to ask you to make some changes. A lot of them we already talked about today. So we're going to ask you to make those changes, because when you do the things that we ask you to do and don't do the things that we ask you not to do, we get very repeatable results with our clients. And it's like, if I take someone on who says, yes, just show me what to do, I'm going to change my lifestyle. I recognize there's going to be challenges. I'm going to mess up. Like, everybody's human. We work with humans. And so, and I recognize that, but we're going to move forward despite the challenges. I know I got to win with that client.
So in terms of like diagnoses or unresolved symptoms, or how would you categorize those for the best participants?
Oh, like as far as their quality of life. So yeah, I mean, we work with Hashimoto's clients almost every single day of the week. Diabetes, inflammation, Crohn's disease, celiac disease. Like, these are autoimmune conditions. The beautiful thing is that you have all these different labels for an autoimmune disease, but autoimmune is just one big umbrella term. And so you do need to address it differently, because everybody's different with different health histories. But if we can start focusing on what's causing that security guard to shoot the dog, then we're going to get dramatic results. You're going to see weight loss. You're going to see decrease in inflammation. You're going to see higher quality of sleep. And then we can start unwinding the hormone piece, because we test for hormones in our clinic as well. So yeah, you're going to see increased sex drive. You're going to see regular bowel movements. That's pretty repeatable. I think the most common improvement that we hear from our clients within 30 days is an absolute transformation in energy. Like, they have all of their energy back.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So if someone's listening and saying, hey, this just sounds like me, and I would love to proceed and see if this could be something that I could connect with you on, how would they proceed? How would they connect with you?
The best way to do it is to either email or give us a phone call. I got a wonderful team. They're going to help take care of you. Like I said, we're here to teach and educate as many people as we can on a healthy way of life, because there's unfortunately so many times just not answers out there for people who are struggling. So reach out. You can give us a phone call. You can email us, and we'll be in contact, and we'll get you started on the process.
And I'll put links and contact information on the posting for the podcast episode. But those who are just listening or driving or something, is a particular URL or website you could direct them to? Or
twinoakshealth.com. That is where we are. Yeah, we just redid the website, so go there and enjoy it. And I'm putting out more content online as well. But the best way is twinoakshealth.com.
Twin Oaks, like two oaks, like oak trees, health.com.
That's right.
Got it.
That's right.
So, Forrest, Dr. Sauer, this has been a lot of fun, and eager to talk further with you. And thanks so much for making the time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This has been an absolute blast getting to know you more, and just such a privilege. Thank you so much.
And to those of you, take great care. I'll be back with you real soon for another episode of Medical Myths, Legends, and Fairy Tales. Bye-bye. Hey, Dr. Christianson here. Thanks so much for joining me for another episode. Is there a topic you'd like me to cover? I'd love to hear from you. Just go to Dr. Alan Christianson on Facebook or Instagram, write your question, and use the hashtag Medical Myths. Did you find this show helpful? If so, please take a minute and leave us a rating on iTunes so that others can know. Thanks much, and I'll be back with you real soon. Bye-bye.